This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
And welcome, everybody, to Kentucky's Voice, your homegrown Christian conservative talk radio show, covering important issues affecting our local community, our state, and our nation. I'm your host today, Bob Scott. It's Monday, April the 28th. You can call or text us at 502-571-0970 if you'd like to join in the discussion. Again, that phone number is 502-571-0970. I hope everyone had a great and relaxing week, and I know that we were busy doing, or I was busy doing a lot of honeydew chores. As we all know, this is Derby Week, with all the area festivities kicking off leading up to the 151st Run for the Roses. Do you have a favorite yet? Everyone is saying that this year's field is wide open, with the very slight favorite right now being a horse called Journalism, go figure, closely followed by Sovereignty and Sandman. In fact, I think Journalism may actually be undefeated so far. With a current field of 20, it could be anyone's race. It really could, folks. We have been blessed to attend many derbies in the past, but we will be watching this year's event from our couch at home. You know, things continue to roll right along with President Trump in Washington, and I do have an update on what happened last week. I want to play for you all from the White House Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt. Dave, if you could please play that soundbite.
Everybody, it has been a very productive week here at the White House, so let's roll through it for the MAGA Minute. The President and the First Lady hosted the annual Easter egg roll with more than 40,000 guests in attendance from across the country. The President welcomed a group of wounded veterans and heroes into the Oval Office and met with the Prime Minister of Norway at the White House. It was also another big week for investments in the United States. Bayer, Chevron, Coinbase, Roche, Toyota, GM, and Chobani all announced investments in the United States, opening offices and pouring billions of dollars into creating businesses and American jobs. And a major win for the MAHA movement. Secretary of Health and Human Services Kennedy announced that 8 artificial food dyes would be phased out of medication and food by the end of 2026. Attorney General Pam Bondi launched a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias from our institutions. Our border continues to be the most secure it has ever been in our nation's history, with the Wall Street Journal even touting our massive successes. Next week marks 100 historic days of the Trump administration. We have a lot in store for you, so stay tuned, and we'll see you for next week's MAGA Minute.
It's absolutely crazy. They are moving at breakneck speed in Washington right now, and I know for those of us that are trying to follow and keep up, it's definitely been a challenge. I have a statement that I'd like to read. It's involving my guest on today's program. He put this out recently, and the statement reads, Statement of Candidacy for U.S. Congress, Kentucky's 6th District, which again is over in the Lexington area. 3-term State Representative Ryan Dotson enters race as a pro-Trump conservative fighter for Central Kentucky. Washington, D.C. has veered off course, but with President Donald J. Trump leading our nation once again, we are reclaiming our path to greatness. The night he won the presidency, a weight of oppression lifted, and a renewed spirit of freedom swept across our nation. Today, I proudly announce my candidacy for the U.S. House of Representatives to serve Kentucky's 6th Congressional District. My mission is clear: to fight for the people of Kentucky, secure critical funding and opportunities for our communities, and stand with President Trump to see his vision to make America great again fully realized. I want to thank Congressman Andy Barr for his dedicated service to this district, as he is loved and respected by many, and I wish him well in his future endeavors. As a state representative, I have never backed down from a fight. I have stood on the House floor and pushed back against vaccine and mask mandates. I directly challenged Governor Andy Beshear's unlawful executive orders during the height of the pandemic. I authored and championed the Save Women's Sports Act, now law in Kentucky, and have been a relentless advocate for protecting children, opposing gender reassignment procedures for minors, and keeping boys out of girls' bathrooms. I have defended the unborn at every turn and earned a 100% rating from the Family Foundation of Kentucky for my unwavering conservative record. I have served Clark, Madison, and Fayette counties as state representative and look forward to serving all the 6th District as your United States representative. As a proud Kentuckian, I have served in the U.S. Army and now as a local pastor and state representative. I have been in business for many years and can relate on how to operate government as a business and cut wasteful spending and focus on growing our economy in central Kentucky. I have stood and fought for the coal industry in eastern Kentucky and pushed back against Washington, D.C. for its war against coal. I am not afraid of a battle. I never retreat from a challenge. Now I'm ready to take this fight to Washington, D.C. I have been an underdog my entire life, but here I am running for an office that needs a warrior for the people of Kentucky. My path to victory is strong, but it won't be easy. That's why I'm declaring early so I can hit the ground running. I ask for your support as we take this journey together to bring bold conservative leadership to Kentucky's 6th District. May God bless you all, and may God bless our great state of Kentucky. That was an announcement obviously made by current state representative Ryan Dotson, who I'm very pleased to have him on the program today. In fact, I don't know if Ryan remembers this or not, but he was actually my very first guest that I had on back in July when we did our first Kentucky's Voice radio program. But from District 73, Ryan Dotson, welcome back to the program.
Well, it's good to be here, Bob, and I appreciate the invite. And I do remember that. I do remember that well, and I appreciate your confidence in me, sir.
Well, Ryan, I've known you well for many years, sir, and it's just interesting to see the things that are now happening. With regard not only with President Trump being reelected, and we haven't really had a chance to talk much since then. And we'll get into that a little bit, within the program today. But, bottom line is, what inspired you to run for Congress in Kentucky's 6th District, now? And how does that, President Trump's leadership influence your decision? And you're obviously getting started well ahead of the crowd. As we know, Andy Barr has announced his intention to run for Mitch McConnell's seat. So we got a little bit of time between now and then, but, what is your thoughts about that?
Well, strategically for me, I thought it was advantageous to go ahead and file early to get my name out there. I'm getting a lot of press, a lot of opportunities to go and speak. I've done Red, White, and Bluegrass Friday. I was on Spectrum News on Thursday, and I've been in the news ever since. So, because I'm the only one now looking to fill the gap that Andy Barr is going to leave behind in that congressional seat. So I had been looking at this, and we knew this scenario would play out eventually at some point. And it actually did. So my wife and I had considered and talked about this probably a year or so ago. And I said, if that opportunity arises and it happens the way I think it would, then I'm going to pursue that, because I do have an opportunity to take the fight that I've taken to Frankfort, to Washington, D.C. And Bob, as well as anyone, that you've seen me on the House floor fighting for conservative values and fighting to keep biological males out of girls' sports. I authored and championed that bill. And, I was with the way that society as a whole across the nation of America, I think there needs to be someone who's a warrior, is not afraid to take up the sword and fight the good fight, not just on social issues, but help bring industry into Kentucky, secure critical funding that's going to transform our communities. And I think we have great opportunity to do that.
Amen. And you're listening to Ryan Dotson, Kentucky State Representative, candidate for the United States Congressional seat in District 6. We'll be right back with more of Kentucky's Voice. welcome back to Kentucky's Voice with my special guest today, Kentucky State Representative and U.S. Congressional candidate for the 6th District, Ryan Dotson. You know, Ryan, when we went to break, we were talking about your decision to enter the race. You mentioned in your press release that a weight of oppression has been lifting after Trump's victory. I think I know what you mean, but can you explain for our listeners what that means and how it shapes your mission for Congress?
Yes, the night of the election, we saw, as we were going into midnight of that election evening, Trump was having a pretty successful lead. And then we're starting to get reports about 12:30 or so. Well, this state may very well not have a report or results until a few days. And then we hear another state possible. I'm like, here we go. The fix is in again. So I'm just sitting there praying, asking the Lord to intervene. And so I stayed up, and about 1:30, 2 o'clock, it finally broke through that looked like Donald Trump was going to win. And when I say that the spirit of oppression lifted, our country has been under a heavy weight of oppression in the sense that people are in darkness, and they don't even realize it. I mean, when you can't even define what a woman is, and when you can't tell the difference between male and female, there is such this woke culture has to be broken. Somebody has to stand up and tell the truth, and Donald Trump has done that, and he's been very adamant about his faith. And the thing about Donald Trump, he's not a perfect man by no means. None of us are. But I believe in his heart, he wants to do the right thing because, why else would a billionaire want to trouble his life with all the things that he's been through? And I want to be able to, as a congressman, be able to support that vision. Now, but even before he won that election, I'd already committed in my own heart to run if the scenario played out as it has played out, as Andy Barr has moved on to run for Senate. So I'm excited. I believe the wind is to my back. When it comes to this race and all the potential contenders that are looking to jump in, there's no one going to be to the right of me in this race. Everyone that comes in will be to the left of me. So I do have a lane to run in, and it just depends on the preference of the people, our voters, what they want. So,
no, amen to that. And you did mention and acknowledged Congressman Andy Barr's service, and how do you plan to build on his legacy while bringing your own vision to the district? Because, and I don't want to go into too much about Andy Barr per se, but there are some conservative organizations that he does not have the best record with, with regard to rating is concerned. So I think it's probably pretty confident that you sound like you will be a little bit more, let me just go ahead and say it like I feel it, you'll be quite a bit more conservative, in your leadership. And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the thing is about me is that I'm not one to sit down quietly in some corner somewhere and just go and just push the button on days of voting. I'm going to be very vocal as a U.S. Congressman for this district. I'm going to push back against Nancy Pelosi and AOC and the mob squad. You're going to see me on Fox News speaking out, speaking loud. I'm not going to cower away from a fight. I'm going to stand up for what's right. I'm going to support Mike Johnson and the agenda, the America First agenda. Not to say that I won't be my own person, not to say that if there is a controversial vote that I won't weigh it out with prayer and seek guidance and counseling on those things. But at the same time, I want to be the candidate that goes to Washington, D.C., and that this district can be proud of, because I want to bring back jobs, I want to bring back industry, as well as stand for good, godly Christian principles.
Yeah, and Ryan, during the pandemic, it's well known that you did fight against the vaccine and mask mandate. You mentioned that earlier, and weren't afraid to stand up to power and challenge Governor Beshear's executive orders. And why was that so important? And what did it teach you about leadership in that position?
Well, it just goes to show you, not one man has the power. that we, the people, have the power. And so we saw one man who tried to be a dictator for a season during the COVID pandemic. And, I mean, when you go to try to arrest people for going to the house of worship, I got a problem with that. And not only that, but my constituents as a state rep had a problem with it. And somebody had to rise up and to check that power. Now, I had articles of impeachment. I thought the man should have been impeached myself. But here's the thing, is that civilians came along, they filed their impeachment papers to the House, so that kind of took me out of the fray, so to speak. But I think I had great grounds for impeachment, and I wasn't scared to make that challenge. And so, and it didn't go the way I wanted, but at least it showed that there's somebody with a backbone and willing to fight against those who try to oppress the people.
Yeah, and another thing that you did do that we saw past, I guess it's hard to believe it's been a couple years ago. You were the author. Yeah, 3 years. You know what I'm getting ready to talk about, the Save Women's Sports Act. You were really, I remember talking to you about that as you were just starting to put it together. And, what drove you to champion this cause, and how will you defend fairness for women and girls in Congress?
Well, that is the national issue, one of the huge national issues, and one of the things that Trump is really taunting. And I've had several friends and colleagues in the House and Senate say, you've already done it. So in this state, I've been able to get that through the House and Senate, along with Senator Robbie Mills working with me in the Senate side. So, here's the thing, is that I've already got that accomplished, and there has not been any biological males playing girls' sports in the state of Kentucky in our public schools and our universities for the last 3 years. And I'm proud of that. And so we need to take that kind of fight to the nation and get that passed in Congress and get it passed over in the Senate there. And I think it's an 80-20 issue. And even among Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, 3 out of 4 support this. So there is that appetite for it. It's just there are many who don't want to touch it, even moderate Republicans who don't want to touch these type of issues. Yep. I'm not afraid of it. I don't care. To me, what is right, what's wrong is wrong. And we need somebody that, and my intention is to go to D.C. and to fight hard and to put up what I feel is what is right for our community, for the state of Kentucky, but also for our nation. And I'm just not going to be lackadaisical. I'm going to get up there. I'm going to learn the ropes. I'm going to get involved. I'm going to be really throwing myself at this for the period of time that I'm there. And I want to have secured a future for my children and my grandchildren. And so that is the premise of why I'm running, Bob.
Yeah, and one thing I do know about you, Ryan, is everything you just spoke is 100% the truth. You will throw your entire heart behind this, and you do have a 100% rating from the Family Foundation of Kentucky. You have been a strong advocate for the unborn and protecting children. We have less than a minute to go. What will you take this pro-family and pro-life fight to Washington? What's that going to look like?
Well, I'm blessed of God to get there, and I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight hard to get there because I really want it, and I want the people to see that I want it. And that's why I'm running as early as I am and getting out there and pursuing these opportunities. But when I get up there, good Lord willing, I want to make the connections that I need to make. And you know as well as I do, Bob, it's how you work with people. It's how you connect with people. And I want to develop my relationships with other congressmen so we can see the agenda that God has placed in my heart come to pass.
Amen to that. Well, stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back with more from Kentucky State Representative Ryan Dotson and also U.S. congressional candidate. We'll be right back after this break.
By controlling the taxes owed on it. Schedule a free meeting to see if you can reduce your tax tumor and provide a guaranteed income you can never outlive. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
We'll be treated to a taste of summer this afternoon, but you'll need the jacket to start off your Monday with temperatures currently in the low to mid 50s. We'll surge into the low and mid 80s this afternoon, likely staying dry. Can't rule out a random shower, but most of us are in good shape today. An alert day is in place for Tuesday afternoon, however, as a cold front brings the risk for strong to severe storms. From the Wave Storm Tracking Team, I'm Carson Meredith.
This forecast, a service of Dalbo Insurance for home, renters, auto, and life insurance. Call 502-265-0128 or visit thaterieguy.com. Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org. To be a part of the program, call or text your comment to 502-571-0970.
And welcome back to Kentucky's Voice with my special guest today, State Representative Ryan Dotson, who is also a U.S. congressional not representative, a little slip of the tongue.
Speak of into existence, brother.
That's right. Who desires to be one, and and that's coming up. That race, I guess, is it about 2 years out now, Ryan? On that race,
it's a year away. The primary.
Oh, really? Okay.
May. So
wow.
And then it'll be that November will be the midterm election.
Well, it will be here sooner than I thought. So
yes.
It's and I understand why you are jumping out in front of it. I got to ask a question since I do have you on the program today, and we'll get back to talking more about you and what you have going on. But the Real ID deadline is quickly approaching, and it's made national news, especially here in Kentucky, with 28 Kentucky state senators requesting the Department of Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem to issue a delay. And I know this is something that's been brewing for about 20 years or so.
Sure.
And again, State Senator Jimmy Higdon recently appeared on Fox News over the weekend. I have a quick clip I'd like for you to listen to and respond. Dave, if you would, please play that.
After years of delays, there's only a little more than a week left for people to get their real ID so they can board domestic flights and enter federal government buildings. Now there's a push to extend the deadline or to allow people to opt out of Real ID. CB Cotton is live at LaGuardia Airport in New York. CB, 20 years in the making, still not finished yet, moving at the speed of bureaucracy.
That's right. Decades in the making, and people are still not ready. So yeah, it's getting warm out and air travel is picking back up. And to get ready for these warmer weather months, it's going to include a trip to the DMV to get the Real ID, because come May 7th, travelers 18 and up will need one to board a domestic flight, especially if you want to avoid any extra hiccups when you go through security. But as you mentioned, Rich, there is some growing pushback to this. Take, for example, over in Kentucky, 28 Republican senators there sent this letter to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem asking for a delay on Real ID enforcement, saying their regional licensing offices will be further strained, and families, senior citizens, rural residents will face, quote, unnecessary hardship.
People in rural Kentucky and senior citizens is the ones that I'm hearing the most from. Kentucky is simply not ready for Real ID. We're less than 40% compliant.
And then a bipartisan group of lawmakers over in Maine have gone a step further, proposing a bill to put an end to the Real ID program in that state by repealing the law that permits the state's Bureau of Motor Vehicles to distribute the Real ID. The lawmakers there citing privacy concerns. And then we're going to go to New Jersey, the Garden State. It's launched a Real ID emergency program to help people meet this deadline. This after the state's DMV website for weeks showed 0 appointments available on various days for Real ID services.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I did go, my wife Caroline and I went last week to get ours. We didn't have an appointment. It was saying that there was no appointment available, and we had to go to our regional office. We live in Shelby County, so not too far of a drive, but a regional office over in Frankfort, and went over there, and I got to be honest, it went amazingly quick. We were in there maybe 20 minutes,
Right.
we were amazed, and let me just say, happily amazed. Because we were expecting the worst, and in that situation, they were well prepared, and it could have been just the time of day. We went there somewhere like 10 or 11, in the morning, but it went just incredibly smooth. But I do know that this has been a major problem, in our state, as far as especially when we took the licensing out of the different counties and came up with this regional office concept. And that's something I've had other state legislators on the program. We've talked about that, and there seems to be a need or a real discussion about trying to bring a form of that back. And just what are your thoughts about this?
Yes, I fully agree with that. We need to bring those back to our counties and make that more of a local. And I've even talked to our county clerks. They're willing to accept that, even here locally, to where it used to be in the circuit clerk's office, and moving it over where, the county clerk takes care of the motor vehicle taxes and issuing the license plates and everything. It would just make sense to do that. But with the problem that we have less than 40% compliance in the state.
Yeah, it's crazy
as of right now. So the thing is that we're one of 17 states that has fell that far behind. This is a 20-year federal issue that is being implemented. But let me just state that the processes that are in place are just not working. And really the executive branch here in Kentucky has to take the blame for that. When you look back at the pandemic, Bob, when we had the unemployment issue, was such a huge issue for the state of Kentucky. People was not being able to get the unemployment, and it became such a stringent process to get unemployment. People were months and months out, and the executive branch was responsible for that. Mm-hmm. And so they're also responsible for this very same thing, that the processes that are in place are just not working. And so I have to lay the blame at the feet of the executive branch. And then, for the most part, some people aren't compliant because they already have passport. And then some don't have any immediate travel plans, so mm-hmm. It's not that big a deal. Some people don't want to fly. They don't care about flying. And then, you have those who just feels like Real ID is a real government overreach and people's personal lives.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And so you have a combination of all that brings our number to where it is, to where I think it's really 36% are compliant in the state of Kentucky. So it's going to be a mess. I'm hoping that Kristi Noem will accept what our 28 senators have requested. I hope that gets pushed back at least to the end of this year. But that's a hope. That's all we can ask for. But it's just going to cause a lot of problems going forward if we don't get that delay.
Yeah, and I agree, Ryan, because, at the end of the day, we do, and the role of government, and I know you feel the same way, should be as minor as possible. I always like to quote the old Ronald Reagan famous quote, and he said, you should always fear if someone shows up your door and they tell you they're from the government and they're here to help.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I do know you're a small government, type of guy.
Yes.
In fact, as a pastor, veteran, state representative, how do you feel that these roles have prepared you to potentially be serving the 6th District, U.S. Congressional District?
Well, my whole life, from being a young man and the call to ministry, has been about service, has been about mm-hmm. taking care of the sick, the poor, visiting hospitals, ministering to the broken, dealing with people from addiction to, I got to see a dark belly of society that many people don't get to see. And so that led me in, to be able to be impactful in ministry on the spirituality side of things. But then there is a whole other spiritual battle on the political side of things. And I thought, looking through this, that this is a continuation of ministry for me, that that ministry is not just what I do, it's who I am. And I care for people. And to be honest with you, I'm in Frankfort, Kentucky for no other reasons that I want to serve and make a difference. We don't make no money. There's no money to be made there. I think as a state rep, technically you make about $18,000 to $22,000, somewhere in that range. Then you get your per diem and things of that nature, and your traveling expenses, but there's no money there. And many of those people in the House and the Senate, they serve because they feel compelled to do so, to make a difference. So the thing is, it's about making changes. And since I've been there, I'm just finished my 5th session, been there, had 2 special sessions, going into my 6th next year. I feel like I've made an impact. And I feel like the short time that I've been there that, I've made one of my campaign promises was lowering state income tax, and we've got that down to 3.5% starting in January, and our goal is to go into 0. Every campaign promise I've made, I've worked towards, and that's one thing that people that don't know me, that will get to know me, is that I'm a man of my word, and I will fight. And I will be a warrior for the 6th Congressional District. And I'll always put those children first in the womb and in the school. And you know the fight firsthand that I've taken, and I'm not ashamed of it. I won't back down. I get a lot of criticism. I'm hated by a lot of liberal groups. I get a lot of threats, but I stand with God.
Amen to that. And don't go away, folks. We'll be right back with the final segment here on Kentucky's Voice with my very special guest today, Kentucky State Representative Ryan Dotson. We'll be right back.
Service or Saturdays at noon.
Hey there, business owners and church leaders. Want to reach more people in your community? Advertise your business or promote your ministry program on our stations? With our wide reach of radio stations, you'll connect with thousands of listeners every single day. Don't miss out on this opportunity. I'm Barbara Carter. Let's make your message heard. Give me a call at 502-345-9017. That's 502-345-9017.
Louisville women's basketball season tickets are on sale now. Coming off their 15th consecutive season with 20 or more wins and 16th NCAA tournament in the last 17 years, we can't wait to have you join the fun next season. View your seating options and lock in your tickets today at gocards.com/WBB tickets. Go Cards!
Got a big gathering? Feed a crowd the easy way with City Barbecue Catering and the best barbecue in town. Freshly smoked daily at our 2 locations. Our original off Whittington Parkway in Hurstbourne and now on Poplar Level Road near Kroger. From a company picnic to a wedding, our catering pros will deliver beef brisket, pulled pork, pulled chicken, ribs, or even smoked turkey breast. Dine in or carry out. Order online at citybbq.com or download our free app with City Rewards. You get $5 off your first order. The Charlie Kirk Show.
The Democrat Party is now the party of 80-20 issues, which is why their approval rating is 21%. And they're for an open border. They're firebombing Teslas. The Democrat Party right now, as fairly as I can make it, is to get MS-13 gang members out of prison and get biological boys into girls' locker rooms.
Weekdays at noon, followed by The Hugh Hewitt Show at 3 on Kentuckiana's Voice, 970 WGTK.
This world that we're living in may seem chaotic at times. It's good to have a team like ours that has never strayed away from its core values: God, family, and serving others. It's been this way since the beginning. I'm Lee Downing with AirServe.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org. To be a part of the program, call or text your comment to 502-571-0970.
And welcome back to the final segment of Kentucky's Voice. My special guest today has been Kentucky State Representative and Congressional Candidate Ryan Dotson. Our phone number again is 502-571-0970 if you want to call or text us. We did get a text question in, and let me go to that real quick, Ryan. It says, I renewed my real ID by appointment months ago. There is no excuse the governor can come up with to remedy this issue. Folks shouldn't have waited till the last minute to do what is required. And then another text, people will wait in line for hours to do free stuff, concert tickets or deals on Black Friday. People need to be more responsible for what is required of them. So, two comments right there, and that are obviously saying you need to get your act together and get out and get registered. You know, whatever it takes to do that. But I think we're all still in agreement that there needs to be a little, perhaps a little bit more time allocated, and certainly we want to see us get back to get away from these regional offices, and as you were talking about, Ryan, before we went to break, going back to perhaps even a county clerk, situation. But you bring it back to the county, where people know you and care about you, and it's your neighbor or friend that you see a lot of times that are working in there, and to me, that just makes the whole process a lot smoother. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I think that if we rectify that situation, and it shouldn't be that major of an investment on the state level to be able to do that, it would unhinge a lot of issues that we're having now. I mean, it's just the backups, you taking the elderly who have to travel, an hour, some as much as an hour and a half away to a regional office, that becomes a huge burden to people. And so we need to alleviate those burdens and make things as more convenient as they possibly can, or make it to where they can do it on the computer. Mm-hmm. There has to be some real solutions to these problems that we're having. We're too technologically advanced not to have some great solutions.
Yeah, do you feel this is going to be something that the House and Senate is going to take up in the next general session?
Well, we had it brought up this session, but it was a short session, and I'm sure that we will take it up again, or look at it through the long session next year. So there's just there's a huge appetite among reps and senators to get something done. So we'll see what that resolution will look like. But we have several different versions of what that could be. And so we just have to take a look at it and just try to find out what the best version we think would be for Kentucky.
If elected to Congress, what specific priorities do you have for securing funding and just general opportunities to strengthen Kentucky and in particular Central Kentucky as well? And I know also you've been a very vocal supporter of Kentucky's coal industry, and how will you fight for coal jobs, and energy independence in Congress?
For many of those listeners who don't know me, personally, I am a Pike County boy. I'm from Eastern Kentucky. I'm from a little town called Freeburn, which touches West Virginia. You go across Tug River and you're into West Virginia. As far as Eastern Kentucky as you can go is where I'm from. And my dad is a sixth-generation coal miner. So coal was a huge part of our economy growing up. And we saw what happened through the Obama years and shutting down the coal-fired plants, using the EPA to subdue the coal industry, and it really choked it out and really killed the economy in Eastern Kentucky and West Virginia. And as a congressman, I'm going to fight. I fight on our House floor. I was on the Natural Resources Committee in Frankfort. I want to get up to Washington, D.C., and push back against the EPA regulations, and because we have so many, again, great technologies that we can burn coal so much cleaner. And coal is such an abundant resource for us. We have seen since we've veered away from coal, people's electric bills have skyrocketed because the base load of energy has not been coal like it used to be. Mm-hmm. And so, and I have no problem with renewable energy. I have none, but the wind don't always blow and the sun don't always shine, but coal always leaves the lights on.
Ron, you have been a very successful businessman, and you have talked many times about running government like a business. What wasteful spending would you target, and how will you boost Kentucky's economy again if elected to Congress?
Well, here's the thing: is that I really like what Elon Musk is doing. Now, there is a lot of, and they're not trying to cut Medicare or Medicaid. That's kind of the scare tactic that they use. But what they are finding is there is a lot of waste. And I think it's well over $350 billion that DOGE has found in the federal government in wasteful spending and in programs that really are very sketchy, going to NGOs and going to private parties of these nonprofits that are really backing the Democratic Party. So we have to get that. We have to keep continuing to go through that layer by layer by layer. But we also need to do it in the state of Kentucky. I think we need to have a DOGE in Kentucky to help make Kentucky healthier and stronger. Now, we do have, our chairman of A&R. He does a tremendous job. But I'm sure that if we go through, there are some things that maybe we can cut. Not essential services. We want to make sure our people are taken care of and all the essential services are there. But what can we do to shrink our government, to make it less dependent upon people's taxes, and so we can give the government truly back to the people? And so that'll be my goal.
And it's interesting because you were talking about NGOs, and aren't they just really a front, for the filtering of money? And it's, in fact, I'll say this, Elon Musk has even stated that the theft, the mismanagement that has happened. And I got to tell you, as an American taxpayer, it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening.
Especially when you get the story of Stacey Abrams down in Georgia, who started at an NGO, and the year prior she raised $150, I think it was, and then the following year she gets subsidized by the federal government by $1 billion, talking about how to save energy through appliances, through these crazy NGOs are just, it's ludicrous that these type of monies are given to people who are politically swayed to use them against, their opponents. And that's all that it is. And it's what it boils down to. And so, and that goes back to harboring illegals and allowing illegals to come in and vote, because the Democratic Party are doubling down on 80-20 issues, and they're losing at every turn. And so we are just seeing a huge mass of folk coming from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party, because it's not the party of common sense. And so we're seeing that take place. And so I'm excited for the future of America, for the future of Kentucky. We get us a good Republican governor in there, and then Kentucky can just keep moving forward.
You've called yourself an underdog, but a fighter. What's your path to victory in this race, and how can listeners get involved to support your campaign? We have a little under 2 minutes to go in the program today.
Well, my path to victory is I represent all of Clark County and part of Fayette County, which is good for me because I have great name ID in Fayette, Clark. And when you come east out of Fayette County, you got Bath, Bourbon, Madison, Clark. You have Mount Sterling, which is Montgomery County. You have all these counties coming east out of Fayette that I have really good name ID. And some of these who are looking to run, people don't really know who they are outside of where they are in a particular area of the district. So I have a great pathway to victory here. Now, there's a lot of work ahead of me. I have to raise a lot of money. And that's what I've been doing. I've got my compliance done as of last week. So I'm in the fundraising mode now, speaking, going to engagements. I am on the phone with you. I'm on news stations tomorrow and tonight. I was on a station Friday. So I'm out here working it to the best of my ability, but I have a strong pathway to win. And as long as no one's in the race at this time, I'm getting all that attention, and I'm going to take it and use it for my good. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with you, Bob.
Well, special thanks to Kentucky State Representative Ryan Dotson for joining us today, and I want to thank you, our listeners, for joining us as well. My special guest tomorrow will be conservative activist Barbara Day, Have a blessed day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
This is Kentuckiana's Voice, 970 WGTK Louisville. Online at kyvoice970.com. WKLB Manchester.